Hello, good morning, Carolina. Good morning, Jaspreet. Good morning, guys. Drop a hello in the chat. You two know each other, right? Have you met? I can't remember if you've been on the same call before. I feel like you have. I feel like you have. Good morning, good morning. Yay, great to see you all. All right. Okay. So let me just maybe tell me one exciting thing that you have this week, or like a highlight from your week. Tell me a highlight from your week. That would be really nice. Tell each other that too, because we're here all together. Highlight from your week. Okay. Let's see here. I want to message everybody. Highlight from your week. One exciting thing that happened or that you're looking forward to. All right. So if everyone's ready to start, if you have your beverages, I have my coffee with me here and I have some water. All right, so let's talk about the final kind of installment for this month's theme, which is laying the groundwork for effective communication, executive communication, social fluency, okay? And this is kind of the final installment of that before we move on to February's theme, which I'll be announcing in the community this weekend. So hopefully you can join for that live, and that'll be fun. So we are talking about consistency in communication, okay? That's our topic for today's live class. How can we be consistent? What that means. I'm going to give you some strategies that you can implement right away, which is always great because that way it's very much hands-on and you get to, you know, really think about how it might apply to your own work, to your social lives, because we do both, right? We have the mix of social fluency in interpersonal interactions and social interaction, as well as in professional settings, professional communication, the executive skills that we always want to polish and have ready, nice and buffed and polished. Okay, so let me share with you, and I'm going to get to your highlights. Let's talk about your highlights now. They're so great. So Carolina says, professionally, you're applying for a D&I mentoring program. Very cool. So does that mean that you're looking to become a mentor? That's an awesome, that's great experience. So very cool. And then Jaspreet says, being consistent with my communication practice and being aware about areas to improve. I love it. Very on brand for us, right? Very cool. That's excellent. And Jaspreet, that's a great segue into what we're talking about today with being consistent with our communication. You've probably seen some of the polls the questions that I asked in the community about what how you've been consistent so far. And it cannot be, stated as much in terms of, like, it can't be overstated how important consistency is with everything we do, right? Not just with communication, but any type of skill that we're looking to improve upon. So, okay, so let's talk about this. I want to know what your biggest challenge is when it comes to communication. Is it being clear and concise? Do you feel like you over-explain? Do you feel like you, are too verbose? What do you feel about that in terms of getting your point across? Do you feel like you are lacking some confidence? Is it maybe second guessing yourself or worrying about certain, ways of being perceived? Is it with the consistency, right? Like, I communicate well sometimes, but I struggle to keep up kind of mentality. What's your feeling here? Let's check a pulse. Let's check your pulse. So do you say A, B, or C as the kind of biggest challenge? Like, what jumps out as the biggest challenge right now? Drop it in the chat. They all have their valid place, right? Okay, so Catalina says all of them, but the biggest is B. Yeah, I can totally understand. For a lot of people, it is confidence, right? And it's like getting over that mental hump, that mental hurdle, which is huge, right? It's not as simple as, oh, just feel more confident. No, it's not as easy as that. And sometimes it's that confidence or lack thereof of really feeding into those other two challenges. And then just says A, in your opinion. Yeah, being clear and concise, kind of keeping it, succinct, not over explaining things. Okay, great. So as you can see, slightly different challenges, which is fine, but there's still challenges nonetheless. And then I want you, this is something that I want you to think about, and you can think about it throughout the class and even afterwards, but keep it, in the back of your mind in terms of an interaction that didn't really go maybe as you had planned, as you had wanted it to go. Maybe there was like a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, or the message wasn't received in the way that you were hoping it to be. In reflecting on that, I want you to think of two things. What exactly happened in that situation? And then what factors do you think contributed to that miscommunication, if there was one? Okay, so we'll revisit this. I want you to think about it. Feel free to, take out a piece of paper in your journal or in a digital setting, like in your Word document or Google Keep or something, and really reflect on this question, and we can come back to it. And you can also respond to it in the community where I have the replay and the quiz and everything. So you can also put it there. Okay, so why does consistency matter so much in communication? Well, it really builds trust, right? Because the more the more you're able to show people that you're reliable and dependable and trustworthy and committed to communication, the more they're going to want to interact with you, do business with you, invite you out to places, right? Can you imagine a situation where, you say yes to every type of event or social gathering they they invite you to, yet last minute you drop the ball on them and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I have to cancel. That positions you as an unreliable person. So they're not going to invite you anymore, or the invitations are going to really start slowing down. So this is kind of what we mean too by, being consistent, and hopefully, working on that consistency as well. Okay, so let's keep going here. Okay, so now the next one is clear understanding, right? You want to eliminate any type of ambiguity. You want to make sure that everyone is understanding the messaging clearly, to do your best to prevent misunderstandings and miscommunication, which, look, that they arise, that happens sometimes. And I'm not going to say it's okay, because we know the cost of miscommunication, whether it be monetarily or socially, but it's not the end of the world, obviously. But of course, you do have some control over miscommunications, at least preventing them from happening. However, you don't have full control, obviously, because you don't know how the other person's going to respond, what kind of mood they're in, how they're going to perceive it, what kind of mind space they're in, and so on and so forth. So you really do want to do your best to be as clear in your communication as possible. And then lastly, it fosters, as we said, trust, but also creates stronger relationships, right? Creating this open, transparent dialogue, promoting active listening, creating this sense of mutual respect and connection, which ultimately is what we want. So why is inconsistent communication such a big deal? Well, it can lead to missed opportunities, right? So if information is not shared clearly, there's going to be misunderstandings, and then ultimately it can lead to a missed opportunity, whether there's a cost associated with that or some sort of social cost associated with it, like the example with not being invited out anymore. Or maybe it is like a monetary situation where you lose on a promotion or a job or a business deal or a client, partnership, relationship. It can lead to frustration and conflict, especially in teams or in individual settings, right? And then that causes tension in a relationship, which we absolutely don't want. It just makes everything harder to do. And then a damaged reputation, right? It takes a lifetime to build a reputation, and then it can completely, disappear within seconds. So we really want to be mindful of this as well. So when you're thinking about your own communication habits, there's three things that we can really do. We can reflect, right? Think about, the verbal communication patterns and our nonverbal communication patterns, as well as our written communication patterns across various settings. So I actually want you to think about this, now and then when we, after this class, really think about what are the settings in which you feel like you maybe are more consistent with your communication and less consistent. And in what kinds of environments do those habits seem to surface? Is it the same across all types of settings, or does it change depending on it being professional or more social interaction? What kinds of environments do you see this happening? And then always look for opportunities where you can get some feedback. Members in this Explearning Communication Academy are an amazing resource for you because we're all here to improve our communication skills, executive communication, and social fluency. So it's by design, there for you to interact with each other, right? Including with me, but obviously also with each other. So going into, our networking and community buzz space, that's a wonderful resource there for you. I'm going to share my screen. We can look at that together, where you can also post, interesting things you come across. And it doesn't have to be, necessarily like serious business topics. It can be something lighthearted and fun. Maybe you saw a meme, or something fun happened and you want to share that. By sharing and participating and communicating, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get more confident, with your written communication skills, with your spoken communication skills, with your confidence, with your fear of maybe evaluation apprehension. So writing a comment, right? You get over that fear of, oh, does this comment have to be perfectly written, or am I, by doing it, you're going to get better. So I really, really encourage you to use that because this is a valuable resource in our community. Keeping a communication journal is something that I really recommend. It could be digital. It could be, on a bunch of stickies. It could be in an actual, old school, like analog journal. I don't know how many of you like to do that anymore. I myself am a big fan of journaling and just having like a piece of paper in front of me where I can write longhand. So maybe, tracking your interactions, coming up with some patterns, like looking at some patterns. You can even take a screenshot, like a picture of a piece, like a journal entry, and post that in our community, and we can all, share our thoughts and feedback as well. And then looking at that and trying to find some, areas where you can improve. So a big one always for a lot of people, believe it or not, is active listening. This is something that, you really want to give your full attention to. Are you actively engaged in the conversation? Are you just waiting for your turn to speak? Or are you really involved, right? Also thinking about, how's your messaging? Are you fine-tuning your messaging? Are you making it as polished as it can be? Are there some room? Is there room for some ambiguity? You want to eliminate that, right? Ambiguity can actually result in miscommunication, which can result in missed opportunities and conflict. So something to really be mindful of. And then response time, right? Do you respond on a quick basis? Do you let emails or texts sit unanswered or unread? What's that like? And is that maybe something that you want to improve? And then I will show you in the where the replay is going to be under daily practice in the resource library, you'll see the strategy guide, and that will give you some ideas for maybe what to focus on. And I give you some strategies to, what you can work on when you think about an area for improvement. So I have some ideas there for you. So with active listening, it really helps us with our empathy and try to understand people's intentions and motivations and giving them the benefit of the doubt and kind of understanding, maybe if they're having a rough day, you notice that, or if there's something else going on with them, you notice that, and you just give them the benefit of the doubt. You give them the space to, have those feelings, have, whatever it is going on to let that happen, and maybe even be a source of comfort for them as well. Creating better rapport, of course, is always going to happen with active listening. It shows that you value the person's perspective, that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say. You never, ever, ever want to feign interest, right, my friends? We are not in the business of faking it. We don't want to fake it till we make it. I really actually don't like that at all. I think it just sends the wrong message. We want to be as authentic as we possibly can be. And if you're not interested in something, then find a way to be interested. Find a way to tie it into something you're interested in, right? It's on you to find and seek the common ground, okay? So don't pretend to be interested in something that you're absolutely not interested in. Ask the right questions so that you can be interested in that subject, or change the subject, right? So something to keep in mind. And then, of course, active listening is going to help us with reducing misunderstandings, which is so key, right? So key. So paying attention with our body language, with our eye contact, focusing on the nonverbal as well as the verbal, because both of those things are important. And then always asking clarifying questions. So making sure these are open-ended. We talk a lot about this, open-ended questions. So that might be something that you want to be more consistent about. Maybe you notice, okay, you're good at actively listening, like non-verbally, you do the discourse markers, you do the triple nod, you're leaning in, you're showing interest. However, you feel like you're lacking on the ask questions portion. So that could be something. That could be an area where you want to be more consistent. And then summarizing, paraphrasing. Again, another example where maybe that's something that you want to improve upon, and that's great. We always have room for improvement. We all do. Okay. How are we doing so far? Any questions that I can answer for you? Any questions? Drop them in the chat if you have any. Okay. So when we're tailoring our messages to fit our audience, we always want to keep the audience in mind. Like, who are we talking to? How are they going to receive this message? Is this going to be helpful information for them? Are they going to find it, interesting, helpful, fun? What goal is it that we're trying to achieve? And then figuring out from there. Organizing your thoughts, making sure there's a logical sequence to them, right? A beginning, a middle, and an end. Make it as logical as possible, because it's very easy for people to get distracted in our hyped up, notification-laden world and realities. So you really want to keep it as clear and logical as possible with a nice flow. And use plain language. You don't feel like don't feel the pressure to impress with big words or jargon or technical language. A lot of times that has the opposite effect of what you want it to have. So simple is best, really, okay? And then if you're using, a text-based form of communication, whether it be Slack messages, WhatsApps, texts, written communication like email, and so on and so forth, make sure that your communication is very clear and doesn't have any grammatical errors or spelling mistakes, because it reduces the level of professionalism. And then always, when you're delivering messages, be they verbal, written messages or spoken messages, you want to be empathetic. Okay, so consider the impact that message is going to have, right? This ties back into and harkens back to knowing your audience, right? Who is your audience? Put yourself in their shoes. And when I say audience, I don't necessarily mean a whole room full of people. I mean the one person you're communicating with, the one person who's on the other side of that email. Who is that person? Get inside their headspace to the best of your ability. And then think about, how are they going to receive this message? How are they going to read this email? What are they going to glean from it? Okay, that's super important. And then being as positive as you can. If you can't be positive, then at least be neutral. Okay, don't veer to the negative. Just be as positive / neutral as you can be. And then validate when it's appropriate. Validate. Even if you don't agree with somebody, just validate, right? It really ties back into that actively listening portion of communication. So with body language, we want to always think about, okay, what's the eye contact situation like? What is our body language doing, right? Making sure that you're really focusing on that. And in the US / Canada, we really do want to be making eye contact. And virtually too, if you can, when you're on a Zoom call or a Google Meet, look into the camera every once in a while. Thinking about your posture when you're sitting, when you're standing, showing confidence, attentiveness, being assertive, and then gestures. Be as natural as you can be with them, but definitely use them because it helps punctuate what you're saying. And it shows that you're actively engaged and listening in your conversations. Again, something that maybe you'll feel like you need to work on. We talked a little bit about distractions, right? Consider silencing your devices when you're in conversations or at a dinner date or at a coffee, lunch or whatever, coffee or a lunch, coffee lunch. So, thinking about that with your emails and your chat alerts and even your physical distractions, like the world around you. Maybe you're in a really loud place and you can barely hear the person over the loud music or the loud whatever's going on. Maybe you need to change your location, right? If you're always like, what was that? What did you say? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Then maybe it's not the best environment for a conversation. So you might have to be the person saying, look, why don't we move to a quieter location so we can communicate more easily? Be that person. That's okay. And then, we talked about responding promptly to messages and requests. Think about, the timeliness of that. Like if they're asking you to do something, there's probably some, time value associated with that, right? If they're inviting you somewhere, there's probably some sort of time value associated with that. If they are looking, for a quick response, like you can kind of parse out details based on the nature of the text or the email or the phone call and try to do your best to be as prompt with that as possible, because it doesn't set the right tone when you are tardy, right? When you're kind of lacking. Try to respond as soon as possible. Even if it's like a long email, just say, look, I browsed it. I quickly glanced at it. When I have some more time, I'm going to peruse it more closely. But just know that I've seen your message. Just acknowledge it, because letting messages pile up like that can really make the other person feel ignored or unimportant. So just acknowledge it. You might say, look, I haven't really gotten a chance to get to your project proposal, but I'm on it. I'll have some time later today to have a closer look. Or you might see a really long email from someone and you might respond to them, say, look, I don't have that much time, but let's talk about this. Let's do a lunch meeting to talk about this. So that way you at least, tell them that they're on your radar. And even if you don't have time to necessarily do what they're asking, you can acknowledge that you've, the receipt of that email or project proposal or text or whatever, instead of just ghosting them and being silent. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, good. And then when it comes to consistency, we really want to think of tracking it so that we're aware of our habit formation. So think about one of the habits that you want in communication to improve upon. Just choose one, right? I don't want you to pile them all on. That's too much of a cognitive load. And then guess what? None of it gets done. You might be really overzealous in the beginning with it and pile on all these habits like, oh, active listening and, consistent communication and promptly replying and nodding and, cultural sensitivity and all of that. But it's just too much. Okay. So focus on one, stick to it, track your progress. Okay. Use a journal, a calendar, come into the community, post, be really, mindful of tracking and just choose a habit each week. Even a new habit each day is okay, but I wouldn't go more than that. And then as you work on it, you want to, if you're struggling, try to adjust your strategy. Okay. Adjust your strategy and then go back to it and then come into the community and we'll work on it together. Okay, so I want to just, before we talk about accountability buddies, I'm going to show you in the community. I want to talk a little bit about accountability partners, okay? This is really important. So in the community space, I want you to think about, posting some of your habits that you want to work on and finding a partner in there so that you can actually work together. Okay, and this is going to be really helpful in terms of, improving, right? This is super important, and this is going to help you improve. So we'll go into that community space. I already posted a couple of icebreakers and things like that, and I really would love for you to engage with that material because that's one of the ways you're going to find an accountability partner. So we talked about accountability partners. This is super important because this is going to help you kind of get to that next level where you are, doing the work, you're coming into our classes, you are posting and, getting feedback from the community, from myself as well. But then you're also, working with each other to make it kind of to challenge each other, right? To find ways of being and holding each other accountable. So that's super important. And I think it's something that, we really have to emphasize. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we're, posting in the community. And it's something that I really encourage you to do. And then, of course, when you get feedback, right, you want to be able to adjust it. So you notice, oh, okay, well, maybe, I didn't listen well enough in that situation, or I misread that, something, that post or that email or that text or whatever it is. And then guess what? You can adjust for the next time. You make it clearer. You make it more empathetic. You make it, whatever it is, whatever the feedback is, you work on, right? That's part of the beauty of being in a community because you're always getting feedback. And then the key with this, my friends, is to be, have sustainable communication habits, right? It's a journey. It's not a destination that we're trying to reach. It's a journey that we're going to be on. So really with our mindful practices, with our mindset, that's going to promote better, self-worth and confidence, things like that. You want to be reflecting have that continuous improvement mindset. This is going to help you become more sustainable in your, interpersonal relationships, in your intrapersonal relationship, right? The way you talk to yourself, right? The inner voice as well. And this is going to help you create a more meaningful life, of course. So this week's challenge, I want you to implement one daily or weekly habit to improve your clarity or your connection, or both, in your communication. So I want you to check out the daily practice coaching space and share the focused area in there. And so actually we can pop on over to that space right now so you have a look at it, because that's going to really kind of, like I said, just concretize, solidify it, make it even more of a thing. Okay, let me share my screen here. Let's see, where are we? So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. Content library. Okay. Yes. All right. Let's have a look. Any questions, guys? So this is where I'm going to have it in this space. Can you all see that? Okay. You see under here, developing consistency communication habits. It will be in here. I want you to, once the replay is up, I will post it. But, this is going to help you kind of give you some ideas. This is like a step-by-step guide, right? So, for example, you want to think about, is it something that you want to, is it clarity or is it connection? If you feel like you're misunderstood, then maybe clarity is what you focus on. Or if you're really struggling to build solid friendships and relationships and business partnerships, then maybe it's actually connection. And so then I have it all outlined here really nicely for you. You can practice like the one breath rule. You can practice the bottom line first, or does that make sense? Does that resonate? Checking for understanding. So this is a whole great guide for you. And then I would love take the quiz, of course. And then I would love for you to, at the bottom, you can't, this is my setting, but for you, you'll see the comment section. I want you to comment with what you've practiced. Maybe just share the goal first, the habit that you're working on, and then circle back and tell us, okay, what went well. And then over in networking, I would love for you to respond to this. This is a really fun little icebreaker, 2 truths and a lie. I added mine, and then I would love for you to guess, and then share yours right here. Share your thoughts in this space, right? These are easy wins, right? Easy opportunities for you to network, for you to practice your written and spoken communication, for you to make friends, for you to practice, like I said, to build confidence. Easy wins, easy wins. Right here, you actually have access to sharing. This is not just what I can share. You can share too. You can share a GIF. You can share, create a poll. You can share a photo or a video, right? You can even, well, I think I can only go live, but you can actually create your own event. So this networking community buzz space is something that you should absolutely leverage, right? This is another one where you can, there's actually a photo I took as well as this. I would love for you to share a photo you took here. Share, a view that holds a significant, memory, or captures a time in your life where you did something cool or fun or something, right? These are easy ways of interacting. And then, of course, we have our programs and all of that, our coaching, all of these, sharing your ideas here with the activities. So committing to daily practice, right? I have it right here. Daily practice, showing up, showing out, doing your best. It's all here for you. Super easy to do in the community. All you have to do is show up, whether that be 10 minutes of your time, 1 hour of your time. And then, of course, we have streaks. So you'll get to see, you know, how you're doing with your streaks. And yeah, that's also, you know, what we're about. Okay, my friends. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat now. And then I look forward to seeing what you share in the networking community buzz space, and then in the daily practice under the replay, like where I have what I showed you, but it's not live yet. Once the replay's up after we finish the call, it will go live. And yeah, that's what's good. So feel free to ask any questions, share any thoughts. And if not, then I will see you in the community. I'll see you in daily practice. I'll see you in the other spaces. Okay. Any questions? Oh, here we go. We have one from Jaspreet. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Jaspreet, yes, absolutely. It's in the strategy guide in the daily practice, but I'll tell you quickly what it is. Essentially, you want to, because the goal is succinctness and being concise, as concise as possible. The idea behind the 1 breath rule is to try to get to explain your point in just 1 breath. So the time it takes for you to breathe, and on the exhale, you explain your breath, as opposed to taking multiple breaths, that's a succinct answer. That's a succinct answer. So instead of taking a few breaths to explain your point, you just take 1 breath in, and then on the exhale, you explain your point, and that's it. It's really hard. It's really challenging. I would love for you to try it. Let us know if you do. And then when you comment, my friends, so great question, Jaspreet. When you comment, I want you to comment, like interact with the other comments in there. It's not just a conversation between me and you. It's a conversation between me and you and the others in the community, and you're conversing with each other as well. So this is really how you're going to get your ramp up your skills. Ramp them up. Okay. All right, my friends. Great question. Thanks for being here. Really good job. You'll find the replay, like I said, where I showed you in daily practice. And that's it for now. That's it for now. I'll see you for the announcement, okay, when I announce the February theme and how we're going to, you know, allocate the time with that each week, what we're going to be working on with that. All right, I will see you soon. Thanks so much for showing up. Good job investing in yourself. I'll see you for the next one. Bye, my friends. Take care.